Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And on today's episode, we have our favorite pastime in the whole world. We get to talk about the British Museum, baby. And we're talking about yet another way the British Museum breaks the law. And this is actually a continuation of a previous discussion and conversation we had where we actually discussed the 2,000 plus items that went missing last December out of the British Museum and happened to find their way on, eBay, auction houses, and just all over, and led to a massive police operation and sting operation where they currently had to go through all of their collections to try and catalog and document all of what they had and all of what was missing so they can get an actual finite tally of what was lost. And this is a continuation of this because along with doing that recount, they're going through internal review to look at their practices and look at how they were handling things. And this is where this article stems from because that audit found that the museum broke the law after thousands of the artifacts went missing, and it wasn't following the law as to how these treasures should be kept.
Yep, that's no real surprise there. You know,
The British Museum
uh,
not following law?
well,
Sorry.
no, the surprise is that they're not following British law, but just given the fact that 2,000 artifacts went missing, uh, there is some sort of gross negligence there, and what has happened now with this article is the internal audit that the British Museum did on itself more or less found that they were failing to meet the basic standards of preservation, access, and professional care for most of their artifacts, as well as failed to have those artifacts be in the care of suitably qualified staff.
And I think that's the important mark here and the truly scathing. Like you know how British people are and how they act.
Yep.
This is probably the most like scathing a British review could get, where they go in the care of suitably qualified staff, because it came out that an unqualified staff member was the one who was, oh, one for me, one for thee.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
it's just kind of a really unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the museum theft happened. It really is. We laugh at the British Museum because of their acquisitions practices, but they clearly were not following those provisions under the Public Records Act. And
Yeah.
if organizations are found afoul of the act, the artifacts can be transferred elsewhere or handed over to the National Archives. But a museum source said that there was no suggestions of items being transferred in this case. So even then, under the provisions of the law, the British Museum will not give up its collection.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Not even a
Uh,
full violation of the UK's was it a Public Records Act can get the British Museum to let go of anything. Although I have a strange feeling that when this law was written, the term suitably qualified staff was code for not Welsh.
okay. We didn't have to.
Internal jab right there.
We didn't have to go there, but it is
It's the
interesting because George Osborne, who was the former chancellor and chairman of trustees at the museum, and Nicholas Cullinan, the museum's director, wrote in a report that a number of actions are being considered by management or continue to work with the National Archives towards compliance. And part of that whole thing is making sure that they are bringing their museum up to codes and standards. This is arguably the one positive side of this whole outcome, is we're actually seeing them do meaningful change and actually improving. They're no longer just talking about it, they're actually trying to do something about it and working and doing it. And this does also piggyback on a process where they're documenting and digitizing 8 million items in its collection over the next 5 years. And it really highlights that there were major weaknesses in their system and that security of the collection is really an issue. And admittedly, I've worked in a lot of institutions in a lot of places, and the collections may not be in the most secure kind of establishment that you would think of. Like, a lot of times they're in a locked closet type environment where you do need, it is restricted access, but seldom it's more than like a locked door or a locked cage to keep you out.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I found interesting though with the review regarding security and whatnot is the British Museum places the blame in what could almost be described as a call out for poor working conditions,
Oh
as
no.
it describes that the extremely high turnover of staff would have increased the exposure to risk for many of the artifacts, as in everyone who you hire quits.
It's not just people that they hire, it's rapid turnover of senior staff. It's their high level staff that's turning over. It's not low level employees, which I'm
Yeah,
sure they are also turning over
yeah,
because
yeah, but
it's usually a churn at this point, but that is insane. And a lot of the so around 1,500 items were feared to have been stolen last year, where of those 350 had portions removed, which includes gold mounts for gems, and about 140 were damaged by tool marks. And
yeah,
of the 1,500, they have actually recovered about 600 of them so far. So they're working on it, but it's
yeah,
not a quick process, and it's not something that's happening overnight.
no, yeah,
And
and
yeah,
one.
oh
Oh,
sorry,
yeah, you can keep going.
I was just going to talk about Peter Higgs.
Yeah, we can talk about Peter Higgs. I was going to talk a little bit about how this has like affected the museum's funding because it's had a really interesting effect.
It's what people aren't donating to it.
Yep, the British Museum reports a typical 25 million pounds in donations every year. This past year, they have recorded less than a third of that at 7.5 million,
It's still a lot of
indicating,
money, but for an
yeah,
institution that houses over 8 million artifacts, like that is.
yeah, yeah. It's but like the drop off by two-thirds there clearly indicates just how much public perception played in the donations and just how much faith is being lost by even by British citizens, especially over you know the handling of this affair.
And that is truly tragic. Like when you lose faith in institutions and museums, like they should be a place to trust and a place to rely on. And
Mhm.
when you don't have that trust, and to be honest, when funding is in question, that really sucks for everyone involved because the first people that feel it are the museum staff because the first reaction when funding gets cut is the jobs. People start getting hours cut. Seasonal and part-time employees get let go. They get relinquished. Senior employees get furloughed or get outright laid off or fired. Like, it's sad when museums lose their funding because they're not going to be like Italy and start selling off right away. If they were truly in dire straits, they may, and it has been. There's precedent for it, but it's not gonna. It's not something that happens lightly. So, and this is all. So, circling full back, this is all because of Peter Higgs, the gentleman who was pictured here holding an artifact. And he was a senior curator at the museum before he was sacked. And he is the one who is being accused of the by the museum of using his position to steal £100,000 worth of unregistered items, which mainly include Roman and Greek gems. And Higgs denies the allegation, but nobody has been arrested or charged in any offense. But it's pretty well tracked to him, I believe. I think one of the reasons they discovered the theft was the account on eBay that he had used to fence the
Yeah,
items.
yeah, yeah, it's one of those things where like all this, there's all the big glowing signs pointing to him, but no one has formally really gotten to do anything because justice and law enforcement stuff don't really take the glowing signs at face value. They investigate them and investigate them and investigate them because it's a bureaucracy. Everything's got to be a little bit slow.
And I think as much as we talk smack about the British Museum, it's always sad to see an institution struggling like this. We're truly optimistic and hope that these new procedures and these new um, analysis really come back and help the museum in a positive way. And anyone like Peter Higgs here, who allegedly commits a crime like this, really deserves to just have the book thrown at them. Because, like I say all the time, history is a finite resource, and when you're stealing it, when you're literally doing it for personal gain, you are the worst kind of person.
Yeah.
Change my mind, do it or not. Let us know what your thoughts are down below, and we will see you guys in the next video.